So your coffee shop is struggling. Maybe it's not as profitable as it once was. Maybe there's not so much foot traffic coming through the door and you might be struggling to pay bills. This is a really common theme all around the world. Just with the economic situation, we're here to discuss that and work with you on resolving that.
Yeah, Jimmy and I have just spent the last couple of weeks down in Melbourne, one of the big capitals of coffee of the world, we might say, and then the next week in Sydney, talking to cafe owners, roasters, and industry people as well, and suppliers. And it's a real thing that's happening, I'm sure, around the world. So, we're just going to nail a few of these questions and see what you can do to make an impact in this challenging economic climate.
Yeah, we really want to help these cafe owners. We really want to help baristas to be able to support the cafe owners. So, and customers. Customers is key. We're trying to get them back in the doors and make sure they're spending money when they might be hanging on to that money.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Customer loyalty is a key point of, I guess, getting customers back in the door. I guess what are the things that you've seen have worked over time in customer loyalty and attracting people to come to the cafes and stay in the cafes?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's just a long-term culture that you've got to have in your business. It's not something you can just flick a switch and change. So having a couple of different ways to basically have either a reward system or just a really good experience. And if that experience is coming from you training your staff well, getting the message across about why they come to you for coffee, in the good times and the bad times, I think is a good thing across the board.
Yeah.
We kind of think, hey, it's quiet right now, so let's provide more service. But really, do we need to just have that as our core all the time and get to know people better, and so that they really want to come and spend their money with us as a key day-to-day thing when it's a bit more challenging?
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, it's people like people. As much as it's the coffee and everything, remember that you as a business owner, it can be really important to have you in the business and be around. The loyalty comes with people enjoying people. Maybe it's their favorite barista. Yes, the coffee's great and the offering needs to be there, but I think the loyalty becomes those relationships and the people that you, I guess, build those friendships with. And of course, in business, that's a hard thing to rely on, but we're in hospitality. Being hospitable is definitely a big part of it. So creating loyalty programs. I think the cards are still viable. Having a discount deal can still attract some people, whether you love those deals or not. But just sharing a coffee with someone, maybe it's a regular that's in often, and just shouting them a coffee every now and then.
Yeah, for sure. Just addressing probably the last couple of years, we've probably been through the most challenging times ever.
Sure.
Let's say, in business, we might have had highs and lows more in the economy side, but in 2019, there was like a big, hard, fast hit that the industry hit.
Yes.
And I think that if you can look back at that time, because you're now a couple of years past it, and see what worked for you then, and have you managed to maintain and continue those things? Because some places had to close. We reinvented ourselves really quick.
Yeah.
So I think if you've done really well from that, let's see how you can step it up the next time. Or maybe look at the other competitors around you. What did they do at that time? Did you react quick enough? Were you forward thinking? So we've got a bit of history. So I do want to encourage you that you've probably been in a harder time than right now. But you've already got a bit of experience to deal with that.
Yeah. What should I do if the customer, I guess, foot traffic slows down? If there's just less people out and about, I think this is true.
Yeah.
I know in the cities of Australia, the working from home mentality that came out of COVID was great for some people, but it has really affected the foot traffic of people coming into cafes. Is any ideas around how we can kind of attract people to come back into the cafes?
Yeah, I think we only look at when people walk in our front door of our cafe, and that's that flow through. But how can we have a service or an offering that's outside? So, you might have a couple of, business groups or other clubs or bigger, industrial areas or something around the area. Can you get out to them would be my first thing. Could you do a delivery service? Could you do a pre-order app? Could you look to hold maybe some functions or events to get people to connect a bit better? You might have a bigger space and say, well, we can book this out for a team meeting, a coffee cupping session, a long lunch, maybe start to bring people, different communities back into your business.
Yeah.
We're just creating different offers. Is your website good? Pre-ordering apps,
Yeah, I think realistically people are making choices from home. If they're not going out so much, I reckon they're making more choices from home, opening, Googling more, looking for new hot places. And social media is still a big part of that journey of someone deciding where they're going to go. Can be just a really interesting drink that's on the menu now that you're making on socials, or you're showing that your menu items. I think people think that that's strangely dated. It's this thing, it's been going on for so long. Everyone's like, oh, that's been and done. It's actually more relevant than ever that you need to be putting yourself out there and showing people what you have, because if they're not walking in the door, you've got to give them a reason to go to you. I'm a sucker for it. I mean, we just did Sydney and Melbourne, and I was just like going to town on socials and finding things and seeing someone do a pour over or do something on the menu that was really attractive. We would go to the other side of the city for it. It wasn't always about convenience. We definitely weren't just parking and walking. We were definitely looking for good cafes and good coffee shops, because if I'm going to part with my money, I want it to be an experience for me now. So it's definitely part of it for sure.
Yeah, actually on that point, we did look hard and we found some restaurants, cafes and different places to go to, and they had a very cool moment that we wanted, and we wanted to experience that and pay some good money for. That was definitely there.
Well, you made a booking. You made a booking in Coffs Harbour for a Sydney restaurant purely off a good social media post. So
and look, it was good, but there was definitely a bit of a lacking experience there.
Oh, sure. You got to nail the experience once you get there.
Correct, because if you do get those people in, make sure that they get that experience and want to tell others about it, because I think that's the key about social media. We can tell your own story really well to your customers, but if your customers are telling other people, that is that word of mouth value that's always been there for a long time, and I think that's actually what you got to do. You got to back up what you're going to say.
Yeah, for sure. And that comes back to having something that people might want to post about. We did some content while we were there about other cafes, and it's gone amazing, and they're going to get that feedback, and that was because of the experience that they were giving. Maybe they were making a pour over, maybe it was some great equipment that they had that we were highlighting, and they'll get that value back as well. So if you've got something for people to share, feel free to tell your customers you're welcome to take photos and take videos. I think latte art's always a big part of that as well. I think that comes back to training your staff. We mentioned just before we started, I think, using the downtime. It's challenging times, yes, but sometimes you get really busy and you don't have time for this stuff. And if you can afford to take the moment and use this time to build out some marketing ideas and maybe upskill your staff, that's going to be valuable to you.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's if you can get that into your normal week as well, not just make it while you're quiet, you look at it and keep that momentum going. You did use the word staff there. I think business owners worry too much. It's always got to be about them and coming up with the ideas. You've got a great team of people that are in the industry, on socials. They're going to have a great range of ideas. So I think allocating time to either connect with your team to get the ideas or time to work on your business, that's the good old thing that people forget about. Working on it.
Yeah, for sure. How can I control costs without sacrificing quality? And this is something that comes up in our videos all the time. We're always talking about maintaining quality while also getting it out fast enough to keep up with customer demand. And I think that we just mentioned it. It's training. It's making sure that we're getting the most out of our staff. It's making sure that we're not just having to have a lot of staff on, which I think is one of most people's biggest expenses and pain points. I think whenever I talk to cafe owners, they're like, staff is top of the list for pain. Big time. Just changing staff and people coming and going and not feeling like they're really getting the value out of the stuff they've got.
I think the quick easy summary I think in that we used to have as a breakdown in business was 30, 30, 30, 10. And I think that's really changed. That's 30% of wage costs, 30% of cost of goods, 30% of general expenses and 10% profit. That 30% of wages is definitely far higher now. And that's a reality. We've got more casual workforce rather than a full-time workforce, so there's that extra percentages on there, higher super here in Australia as well. So those numbers are pushing 40 to 40 something. So I think realising that, if you can get productivity out of your staff, that's probably the key thing. Because it's really easy for business to say, I've got to cut costs, cut from suppliers, cut people. I don't like to do that in business. I like to sell more, because if you can sell more, those numbers look less. You know, so you get some more capacity. Being smarter with your marketing. I think don't look to squash your local competition or your local suppliers. You know, have honest conversations with them, see if there's a little wiggle room there. But definitely be targeting your bigger corporations, your insurance companies, your your gas suppliers, your power suppliers, your internet, all of those things. I think go and hound them to reduce costs for sure.
Yeah.
But then this goes a bit back to the previous question about customer loyalty. What we're going to do different. Look at your current suppliers and collab with them.
Yeah.
They may have a great network of people. So if you've got a great fruit and veggie supplier or a great milk supplier, go and tell their story. Collab with them, connect on their influences or their marketing as well.
Yeah, for sure.
That'll work really well. The Melbourne and Sydney trip for us was Lamazocco, our partner that we've done a lot, great relationships with. Probably haven't done as much as what we've done in the last month.
Yeah.
And we've collabed to a very high success, and we're getting something out of that, they're getting something out of it. There's huge value there between that collaboration.
That's
going to last a much longer time.
I know that we've done promotional things with our cafe partners.
Yep.
Like we'll give them free coffee so they can do a coffee morning, and we can contribute there. It's a great community building thing for us to be able to offer that. Maybe we'll go on site and make coffee with them, and then we do our socials thing. So if you have suppliers that you have good relationship with, see what they can do, see what they can offer as far as just promotional events that they might do. They might contribute obviously some of the cost and running to it. That's that kind of, I guess, community building again. But yeah, look to how you can. It's not always about saving money, it's about getting value for money, which is the same with the staff. A staff member that can just make coffee, that you can only really roster on to make coffee. If you're not doing enough coffee to have them make coffee the whole time, and then you're having to have extra staff on the floor to cover the retail sales side of things, it's probably about time to spend the downtime training them on retail.
Definitely.
That's an upskill to them. Don't be afraid to upskill people. It's valuable to them. And you want them to be as productive and valuable to the business as they can be. And I think that's going to help with staff retention. Like the fear of losing staff is big, and the cost of onboarding new staff members is big too. So really finding value in the core team that you have, upskilling them and getting value for money, and which is going to then maintain that quality, because we're not losing people and having to start again, and everyone just gets better at their job. So
I just grabbed these products to give you a bit of an idea about retailing in the cafe environment. It's something that for many years people have been worried about, because they see the cup of coffee that you're selling as a takeaway, or the dine-in cup, or the meal that you're going to provide a customer as they walk in is where you make all your money. I just want to dispel the myth that people will come in and buy a retail product from you, like a bag of beans that you're using to make this cup of coffee, and they will do it regularly, and it won't affect your actual cup sales, but it's going to give you a huge profit margin. So, a lot of people are really resilient to do that and reluctant, and I find that challenging. But to give you a quick idea, if you're going to sell this cup of coffee in Australia, it's about $5. You're going to maybe make about $2, give or take, depending on your margins of profit there. So if you want to make $20, you're going to have to do 10 of these coffees. But it's got obviously the cup, the lid, the milk, the grinding, the barista, the electricity, all those things factored in there, and it's a much bigger production facility that you have to run in your cafe just to make that $20. Where if you can go across and use the beans that you've got now, we sell these for about $53, and you're going to make about $20 or so, and all you're doing is, hey mate, you want some coffee for home? I sure do. There you go. Done. There's $20.
Sure.
It is such a simple thing, and that customer is going to enjoy the product at home, come back and see it again as well. There's a whole other range of products, Jimmy. What else could we be selling in that retail aspect?
There's plenty. I think you should really look at all the stock that you have on your shelves. And this idea around retailing things might scare people, because it can look that they have to buy a new product to sell them, or I've got to start being a retailer.
Yep.
Not at all. Like, look at your shelves, look at your stock, look at your alternative milks.
Yeah, for sure.
All these home customers still need a lot of these products for home. It's like I said before, don't be afraid to service them in many ways outside of their daily cup of coffee. Don't think that they're not buying a bag of coffee for home from another shop and then making themselves one at home and then coming to you for a coffee. You may as well get the sale of the coffee for home and then they come in because they love the coffee and they get it from you as well.
Yeah.
You could look at your jams, talk to your chef, see if they can do bulk of your jams, of your spreads, of some of your products, and really try to monetize the extra stock that you have on your shelves. It'll help you with your buying power too. I mean, if you start selling some serious kilos off the shelf, you go back to your coffee supplier and say, hey, look, my volume's actually gone up. Can we negotiate or can we do something? And that's going to be across the board with all your suppliers. I think the big guys have the advantage of volume, and that's where the little guys really miss out, is they're not playing off that game of buying in bulk and getting the value and getting the cost down and the sell price at the same point to have that bigger margin. So I'll be looking at all your products on the shelf. Milk, if you've got a fridge, sometimes the suppliers will give you a free fridge and you can have a couple of extra bottles of milk that you were going to use for the barista, and they sell it for home. You make a couple of bucks, and it's a very easy transaction for a good margin.
Yeah.
For sure.
If you're a cafe owner or a barista even, how many times have you had someone come and say, I really like the taste of the soy latte or the oat latte, what product do you use? I think we discount it that maybe that home customer can't get access to that great oat latte milk that you use, or the soy, or whatever it is. So you can be that avenue to give them that product, make a couple of bucks, and then have them making a great cup of coffee at home.
Yeah, for sure.
Be mentoring them, be
definitely.
excited about it.
And on that note, am I game to adapt my menu in an economic downturn?
Yes.
Yep.
I am super game to do that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people forget about that, because you have to adapt your menu seasonally anyway, right? You should be changing it multiple times a year. You've got summer produce, you've got winter produce, and you've got obviously rising costs as well. I think we're so scared to hang on to that thing, and that's why the cup of coffee has to be $5 or whatever. But really, we talk about the $7 cup of coffee here in Australia. They put up to $8 in the next, sort of little media campaign. So those things are happening. We have to have those conversations. We've got to be real about, all levels of the product that are coming into a cafe are going up.
Yep.
Electricity is going up. We all know what's happening at home. Gas if you've got heating or whatever it might be, or fuel. But every supplier is just passing those percentages up the chain. So you have to go with it. That's inflation. That's what it's all about.
Yep.
And if you're not game to change it, I think that's an issue. But be smart about it. We did another video there about the top 5 things to change or look at in your business. If you've got any problems, go back, have a look at that video as well. But look at those top 5 things again, and what are the most profitable, what's going to be the best thing for your customer, and really focus on those. And that'll be a big impact as well that you can do, because there'll be seasonal products, higher profit. Teach your staff how to talk about it or sell it, and it's really probably what your customer wants right now. Avocado on toast isn't the thing people want to have, but they want a muffin. Make sure you got the best muffin at the right price and the best flavours to get the spend with the coffee. Yeah,
I think the key word there is margin, because you can find affordable things to put on the menu to get people back in the door, and they can sit and they can enjoy a meal, because we all miss doing that as much as we maybe once did, or people are doing it. But if you can have some affordable things on your menu that aren't cutting into your margin, we can still maintain some margin there. We can still get people in. They can still buy that extra cup of coffee, and it's probably adapting your menu might be to the economic times, but it's not necessarily drastic changes or changing the cuisine or anything like that. I think it's just being smart about, again, go back to the suppliers. Maybe it's your bacon isn't going up in price, and maybe it's the thing, so you can look at using that as the product that you try to put on the specials board, and be smart about the products you use. If you're a avocado heavy cafe and avocados are really expensive right now, maybe you need to look at your menu options, because it's hard to be focused on one product and that be your key thing if that's a really expensive product. So I think adapting to that, having a good menu, specials menu, is always a great way to test things. If something's popular on a specials menu, that might then integrate into the real menu, and ask your customers, find out. Like, I love when you see someone chat to a customer, they have a great experience, they have some ideas, and then maybe you adapt your menu to what the customer's feedback is, and then you can tell the customer, and that loyalty and that relationship with them is going to be even stronger, for sure.
Yeah, actually, one thing I want to come back to, you said, how do I control the costs without sacrificing quality. I think it's so easy, and being a business owner myself, and the team can probably attest to this, every time we've had a major issue, I haven't cut wages. I haven't cut back those things. We went into what can we sell more. So if you're a business owner, straight away you're going to go, I'm going to cut the barista's wages, cut his hours back and do all those things. I think you need to stop and not have that, because the people that are actually going to be serving your customers are going to be on the back foot. Yeah. They're going to feel really like, oh, my boss has got my wages back. I really don't want to sell anymore for him. I'm going to go look for another job. Where I think if you can say, get everyone together and say, okay, team, the next 2 weeks, we're going to focus on growing. And how can you do that? How can you help it? Give them a bit of a plan, because they're that avenue to growth for you. So have a bit of money up your sleeve, to be able to have those conversations, a week, a plan, a product, those menu things ready, and be proactive, and they'll help you on that journey. But if you go straight to cutting hours and then try and make that journey and try and then get them to sell more with less people, that quality has been sacrificed, and the enthusiasm behind it is really gone.
It is, for sure.
I think that's a key.
Yep. What are some ways we can market our cafes without spending money, essentially? While we're tight, I think we've got to find some ways that we can get creative with it.
Yeah, definitely. Like social media, like we're all in that space. We all have it at home. Our staff have it. I think definitely doing that and sharing, some engaging posts is definitely the free way to do it. Connecting with local community groups, is definitely a good way to give a voucher or something like that to get people to come in.
Yeah.
Connecting again with those suppliers or other businesses that won't cost you money unless things are actually used. A giveaway, a promotion, a happy hour, things like that. Just getting people in the door to make a spend with you, but at less profit, might be the way to look at it.
Yeah.
Reward the people that are coming to come in at your peak hour to come back at another time. So if you do have that really early morning trade but don't have a lunch trade, let them know that there's a lunch option that will be a good value for them.
Sure.
$10 lunch or whatever it might be. And they go, oh wow, okay, I normally just go down to the little takeaway shop, but for $10, if I can come here and have a meeting, have something, try and get an extra second spend out of that customer that is still coming in the door.
Yeah. And jumping back on social media, I still think there's an opportunity, not just in Instagram, if that's not your world. Facebook is still very viable these days, as far as just that community space. But Google as well. Make sure your online listings are up to date. Your menu's updated online. It's disappointing when you go to a cafe and you've looked at them online and then the menu's not updated. I think there's some simple things that you can do to make yourself give your customer the best experience. So when they're looking around, what's the area, and the photos are well done. Yep. I mean, you can take great photos on an iPhone. Don't always have to pay for professional photos, but you definitely don't want to rely on all the user-generated images online.
No.
We want to,
control the narrative.
Of what your brand looks like as well. So, and tell your story. It's always great for people to connect with you in that way.
So we think we've got to pay other marketers to basically have access to where we're going to get a platform to talk our narrative. But Google is the biggest. We all know, like, it's not search anything more, it's go and Google it, right?
Oh, yeah.
So when we were traveling in Melbourne and Sydney and looking for cafes, we jumped on Google. We didn't jump on any particular app or anything. We just said, coffee near me, top 5 cafes, whatever it might be. So get that Google listing that you have, get it right. Go and fix the GPS map that people actually can find you. Check your phone number, your address, your open and closing times, make sure they're all right. But you can post your own photos in there. You can put in, a little mini website basically in there, get it up to date, focus on getting some Google reviews.
Yeah.
Start off with your mates, get them all to do a review and talk about the product you want to sell. Like, Jimmy, can you go in and do a review on mine and say how good our bacon egg roll is?
Yeah.
That is going to help, definitely.
Yeah, I think people underestimate how much people read into those Google reviews. They really do. And actually, if you have a website connected, you will improve the SEO and the reach of your website from Google reviews. Yeah. So it's definitely a big part of it.
Yeah, and the other one I want to point out, like, we get keyboard warriors are out there, but if you're going to give someone a low rating, just think about how damaging that can be. Just maybe send them a little private message.
Sure.
We got hit on a SAR rating less because we charged for alternative milks. I was like, oh, that hurt, because we were 5 stars on every review and we dropped 1 because of that.
Yeah.
So give people an opportunity, give them a chance. You might be surprised what they say. Send them a message, and they come back and go, man, come and have a lunch on us. Thank you for identifying that little challenge I have in my business.
Yeah.
I think we should be positive about the negative comments we can get in business.
Yep. Now, maintaining a strong brand identity. I love this space.
Yep.
I love graphic design and marketing and all that. But I think when you drill down, like, it's all well and good to have this, that first moment when you're opening, you've got your logo made and you're all excited. I think maintaining that long term, what does that look like and how can I do that? I think there's really real value in brands having an identity. That identity can be tied up in their story and who they are and where they've come from. But I think just visually as well, there's a big part of that. So I think it is updating the Google page. It is updating the social media. I don't love the idea of having to have a photo style that you have to stick to every time. I think the organic version of social media, where it's a little bit more real, is more obtainable for cafes. So I want to take the pressure off cafes always having to do everything so polished that they don't do it.
Yep.
Some quick wins for me. I think the branded coffee cup that your coffee supplier will give you. Our branded cups are cheaper than our white cups.
Yep.
Like, you can save money, and we'll put our branding on there. Yes, it's not your logo, but it's you promoting the coffee brand that you use. That cup then travels around town, people see that you're enjoying that coffee, and when they go to the cafe, they'll see the branding as well. So I think the coffee cup and highlighting your roaster. If you're not proud of your roaster and the coffee that you use and the brands that you use, it's probably time to rethink who you're using.
Yeah, we've got, let's say 70, 80 odd other cafes than the one that has the particular product using that cup. And so you've got their reach or their network of customers that know and see that.
Yep.
Like with us, we've got a digital presence looking for that as well.
Yep.
So someone's seen us online, they see that, they'll come for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, they do.
If you've got your own branded cup, you have to multiply. There's no way you can get your message on your cup to multiply out to the 70 or 80 other cafes that are using the roasters product and their customers.
No.
And people move. So I think that's very undervalued.
If you're thinking about printing your own cups, this is a very common question for me, and fair enough. It's 20,000 units per size minimum print runs.
That's a high cost at 20,000.
It's a high cost.
Yeah, normally it's 50,000 to get.
Yeah, you're going to start paying for storage fees if you have to draw down on that stock. How do your staff order the stock week to week? Who's putting that capital up front? Okay, so maybe you can't afford to print yourself, so we're going to stamp them.
Yep.
If you want to reduce labour costs, stamping cups isn't the next move for you. So as much as I'm encouraging branding, I think it's a great idea. I don't always encourage stamping because it can be labour intensive and you get over it pretty quick. But it might be the thing that makes you feel warm and fuzzy about having your brand on your cup, and that's great. But in my opinion, I haven't seen it to be more valuable than using a good coffee supplier with a good brand and a good product. This is a compostable, biodegradable cup that we pay more for, and we want the customer to feel that. It feels like a specialty cup. So there's little things like that will actually build. You can attach yourself to businesses that are doing ethical things, like supplying biodegradable compostable cups, and that then would add value to your cafe without you having to somehow find ways to incorporate that into the things that you manufacture. So
yeah, just on that, who makes that cup, Jimmy?
This is an Eco Barista cup. So shout out to Eco Barista.
Yep, for sure.
Great guys, they provide a great product.
Yeah, so like a home compostable product, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, so it was huge. How huge was home compostability and sustainability pre the C word?
C word. COVID, that C word is.
This was the thing. Everyone wanted to look after the environment, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's still there. We've got to look after it. Now people are going back to cheaper products, cheaper plastic lids, a cheaper cup. And it just kills me to drink out of a crap cup.
Yeah.
It really does. It's flimsy. It doesn't hold it well. It tastes like rubbish when you put it to your lips. So, think about the customer experience.
Yeah. When we're talking about maintaining quality, reducing the quality of your cup changes the experience of the cup of coffee big time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to be taking a step back on that.
So Jimmy, would you focus more on your internal customers and dine-in, or maybe some delivery options? What would you do, man?
I think you'll do both. You do. And maybe if you don't have necessarily the time and capacity, it's one after the other. Maybe you focus on the dine-in experience and nailing that, and then in time focus on takeaway. But I don't think it's necessarily one or the other. Obviously, the cafe and the space might dictate that. Might be a hole in the wall, but that hole in the wall could also have some milk crates out the front, and that's your dine-in experience, whatever that is. I think what we've learnt over COVID was the technology that could help us while we couldn't get out and do deliveries and those kind of things. But there's a lot of great offerings there that we can still use and people are really used to. It's online ordering systems. It's like I love being able to pre-order. It's part of the deal for me. I love it. So I don't necessarily want to stand around and wait for those 6 coffees. So being able to even just make a phone call and order ahead. It's amazing how many cafes don't have a landline or don't have a phone number that you can call ahead and order a coffee. I think it's a very easy entry point to just get someone that's wants to walk in the door and grab their coffees and go. I think that there's still opportunity in the online ordering systems. I know Square point of sale is got a pretty easy entry point to set up an online store. People are buying because the challenge is obviously your till versus your online store. That's hard if you're not tech savvy to build a website in that sense. Look at your point of sale. That might be where you're losing out, is that process is hard, so you're avoiding it. What are your thoughts on what would you do? Focus on one or the other, or is there any one that you see as more valuable these days?
Yeah, I think knowing that we're doing the assessment actually of how much is dine-in versus takeaway, and understanding that actual business. And once you know that, if you don't have a delivery service or an external takeaway side, you can do that. Like if you're predominantly a sit-down cafe, create a weird access to the barista to be able to order coffees quicker. You might get more takeaways. These are little obvious things. If you've got a takeaway business, can you do deliveries? Can you get the 4 every time that one person comes in, rather than one person, one coffee? So your customers could be a delivery agent taking something back to their workplace or whatever it might be. But I think the delivery for me is more looking at those other options, as I said earlier. Just how could you deliver 4 coffees at morning tea to the person that came and bought a coffee from you at 7 o'clock on their way to work?
Sure. It's not as scary as you think. Those apps and as a barista, I think the fear is that, like, if I have an ordering system and we're busy and people are ordering online and ordering at the till, we're going to have this, there's going to be someone watching while I'm making someone else's coffee and there's no one in the room. I think that fear is real. It's not like that. I've watched cafes do, like, they're quiet and you just hear the ding of the new online order comes in. And the accounts that I have using good online ordering systems are doing 35, 70 to up to 70 kilos a week of coffee. It's crazy. And I do think their edge is being able to fill the gaps of the day with those people that are online ordering. So I think the fear is that it's actually going to slow you down when it doesn't. You can set up parameters where you say that all the orders coming in are going to take half an hour. You can adapt that. You can say a minimum of 15 minutes before you come and pick it up. You can set it up so you don't order online and walk in the door 2 minutes later and say, I ordered online, I get to skip the queue. It's not a skip the queue thing. It's helping your processes. And then you can kind of understand, well, maybe I won't send my staff on a break right now. I'm going to keep them for the next half an hour. I've got a bunch of orders up. So there's other positives about having a good takeaway option, and then you dine in as well.
Yeah, sure. Here's a big one, mate. When I say to you, hey, Jimmy, it's getting a bit tough, we need more customers, and we're all sort of feeling the pinch a little bit because you're not selling, being the sales manager of the business. How do you stay motivated week in, week out to take that next level, mate, and keep moving forward?
I think for me, I mean, in our business, because we're talking like supporting cafes, not selling cups of coffee, for me it's the people. For me it's the relationships I have with those people. I do help those cafes. And I help those cafes to obviously, be able to make coffee better. And we have these conversations with our cafe partners all the time, growing that. And I think for me, it's you always want to offer that to someone else. There's always someone else that needs that help. It's why we're doing this video. There's plenty of people that need the help that aren't our cafe partners yet. Give me a call. But it's, I think there's always an opportunity to serve a good cup of coffee to the next person. If your coffee shop is quiet, there's people around you going somewhere else. And if you have something valuable to share with people, I think you should share it. I think you should be proud of the product that you serve, and you should think not that you're trying to steal business, but you're trying to add value to that customer's day. And if they're going around the corner to a worse cafe and you're like, guys, my coffee's great, tell them that story, tell them about your team, tell them how good your coffee is. And I guess for me, the motivation is the same. Guys, there's better options for coffee suppliers out there. There's better options for coffee suppliers that don't just send beans in a bag. They actually have conversations of how to grow the cafe. They actually train your staff. So I think having the same mentality in any business is important to want to help people, because there's always an opportunity to help people in whether it's with a better cup of coffee to make their day, or it's to grow their business. That's what makes me all warm and fuzzy. Cool. is helping people and progressing them, for sure.
Yeah, I think even just us sitting here, we are talking about how to help you in a cafe. Yeah. And I think it's that resource of a mentor, a podcast, a YouTube channel, or some other people out there that are giving really honest advice and feedback. Yeah. Each week we have a couple of series of podcasts we listen to, one on sales, maybe one on industry specific around the cafe side. And I think even as a business owner, you need to have maybe some sort of business coach, your accountants, your solicitors, whatever it might be, or other business owners, keeping you in check or giving you those ideas. But as you come down to different levels, your staff, your frontline staff, need to see you as a mentor and that positive influence to be wanting to turn up to work, wanting to move forward. Check what you're providing down the chain and look what you can get access to up the chain. I think
what's hard in these times is you might be tired. If you're the cafe owner, you might be tired. You might be a bit stressed, and it's hard to hide that. But it's one of those kind of dig deep moments, and your staff really rely on that. I know that you're big on advocating that. You're very much on the ground with us and going out to customers and doing things, even though you got plenty of other things you got to do to run the business. I think it does help when cafe owners are in there working with the team. Yep. They're supporting the staff. They're covering the breaks. They're not just coming in and sitting around on their laptop watching staff and saying, hey, we got to cut costs, because the staff will look to you and be like, well, you're a bad example of where our money's going. You're not really setting a good example for the team. And I think if you've got managers in different levels, there's people watching up the line and seeing what you're focusing on. And I think it's about maybe it's getting getting the boots on and getting dirty, maybe some scrubbing some dishes, and really showing the team what it takes to dig deep in these times, and they will reflect that, for sure.
Do you think it's a time to be innovative and actually move forward in a crisis, like really reinvent yourself or reassess your business, your marketing, how people see you, your offering? Have you got to a point where you're so tired that, let's say the dining cafe isn't the thing anymore, but you've got to be a dine-in and takeaway place? Yeah. What do you think about that in a challenging time? Would you re-innovate yourself as a whole?
Personally, I feel like when I feel tired, I need the motivation, and it generally comes from being inspired by something. It's like the trips that we do when we go to Sydney and Melbourne, we look at other cafes, it's to inspire us, and that's what makes you go, oh, damn it, let's push through this, and let's and again, like I said, if it's the downtime, this is the time. Take the time, because then ideally there's going to be a peak, and you're going to be, all right, now we have to work. We won't have time to think and innovate and think outside of the square. We're just going to be under the pump, and that's great. In those times, it's harder to innovate. But I think in the downtime, maybe it's planning in the downtime and saying, hey, if we can hit this volume, I could buy something like a Lamazocco Wally to spin some milk while I'm making coffee, which will help my staff and help me be able to, make coffee by myself up until 7 a.m. when that first staff member comes in. That's where the innovation on technology comes in. There's a lot of great new equipment out there, and I think the things that will do well are the things that are not just making great coffee, but making it more, making it easier for staff to maintain that quality while also not needing 2 baristas on when it's really quiet or something. So I think milk systems are going to continue to grow, something that's going to take some pressure off that staff member. So that's the innovation that I see. There's investment there. There's money to be spent. Do the maths on, what it's going to cost you for those products versus staff. Maybe it's just an hour a day that you save, but do the maths on that and see at what point you break even on buying that product and how long that would last.
Yeah, I think for me, just after our trip to Melbourne and Sydney, we saw tired cafes or tired roasters, and then we saw the pinnacle of the industry right now. It's an amazing place in Sydney. I'm not going to give them too much love.
Yeah, they'll get that.
They'll, if you do your research right now.
If you check us out on Instagram, you'll see where we've been.
But I think you need to know as a business where you're at. Are you at the lower end of the scale? Are you in the the middle, or are you innovative in the high end? Because that bar is always moving forward, and if you're not able to assess the top level and then pinch some of their ideas, copy some things, but if you're just sitting in that back end all the time, you're going to taper away to nothing. So keeping on top of it is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, for sure.
Jimmy, there is a good old saying that business is fantastic without staff and customers.
Oh yeah.
So the customer side is definitely changing. Their expectations changing. What do you think that we can think about, and how would we adapt that? How can we communicate with our customers better? To be able to facilitate their needs, so essentially they spend more money with us.
Sure. Well, I think one of the things that's changed and the expectations there is people are getting cluey with coffee. They're getting better at making coffee. We just recorded the podcast with It's Just Coffee podcast.
It's Just Coffee!
Yep. Check it out. It should be live by the time this is live. And we talked a lot about, I guess, the home market versus the cafe market. The gap is getting smaller. People are getting better at making coffee, and they're looking to you to be a better experience. So the expectation on you as a cafe, you got to be better than what they can make at home. And a lot of them bought coffee machines during COVID, and a lot of them can make coffee better. Maybe not barista quality, but they can buy all the bits, and they can watch our videos, and they can learn how to make coffee, and that's going to teach them, what the expectation is. Latte art is not optional. I don't think. I think it's a part of the experience to say, hey, I can make a lot more coffee than you, and I can pour latte art, and that's what you're paying for. That's a better experience than what most people can do at home. So the expectations on the coffee making are changing. For sure. Yeah,
the rapid uptake of quality of coffee in home has been huge. Like 10 years ago, coffee at home was not really there. It was a very ordinary, appliance style machine. 8 years ago, they were starting to get a little bit of, if you could afford a high end machine, you'd get something really cool.
You were rich if you had a little Sunbeam machine in the little corner.
Yeah, 5 years ago, even 4 years ago, it definitely just a line was drawn in that sand where everyone had access to a good quality, Sunbeam or Breville machine, or now, these high-end machines. People are dropping some serious coin on, high-end Lamazocco, home machines or all these amazing brands, and they can make a better coffee than you. Let's be real.
Yeah, they can make a lot of home baristas better than a lot of cafes.
Yeah, so they've got to have that reason as to why they're going to come to you and pay $5, $6, $7. They're actually going to rate you and probably think, you know what, I can make that better. I should only pay $3 for your cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So whether you're in tune with the product that you're doing, being able to communicate that better to a customer, have a nice cup, nice experience, happy, friendly, smiley face, and a good tasting cup, I think that's key. Back when we had our big shop in town, we always made sure that there was someone just pouring out coffees, and it was pouring out a latte and sitting it down on the bench. And we were so quick at it that the customer was actually standing there, and they could just see it. They could see you do a pattern. You might dust it with chocolate, that's fine, or put a lid on it. But I think that knowing that you've taken that care, as opposed to you just jammed a lid on and you didn't care, that interaction now is pretty cool from that home barista now is really what it is.
Yeah.
Not just a home coffee drinker.
Yeah, sure.
Seeing that, man, I got a really cool coffee.
Yeah, I think the combination of that, I think the food needs to be better than I can do at home, which is not that hard, but it. But if I'm, there's some the pricing on the food menu is that much higher, especially if you're going to take the family out. So you do need it to be of a certain level that it's worth it. And then the experience, customer experience. Now sitting in Melbourne, we were focusing on coffee. We actually ended up spending more time on the customer, on our experience as a customer. That's the wait staff, that's the turnaround time, the attention to detail. It's bringing water to the table. It's the menus. It's taking our order at the time that was, the flow on effect. And we would buy multiple coffees in the places that did that well.
Yeah.
And there were some places that we didn't even get our coffees, and we had to go because they weren't even.
Absolutely.
They couldn't even serve us a coffee. It was brutal. So
yeah,
and it really was disappointing for what we were hoping. But the ones that did it well, we've talked about the most. So, and I think that's word of mouth. As much as we're in a social media world, word of mouth is the customer expectations is, I want it to be an amazing experience. I'm going to tell you about it, and they will. They'll tell their friends, and I think that's where that community building and where you kind of grow organically as well.
That heritage of name or brand that you've been associated to for so long has changed in the last 5 years, whether it be a coffee supplier or your own, roastery or espresso bar, which we attended a lot. We've tried to hit the top 5 or top big names in Sydney and Melbourne.
Yeah.
We had the worst of the worst experiences and the best of the best.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting. So, who you're associated with, find out what they're doing. Have you actually gone to the roastery that you support and highlight their coffee and find out if you're actually happy with aligning with that?
Yeah.
Because I'd be questioning it. Some of the places we went.
For sure. Now, speaking of, I guess, looking at the whole big picture, is it time to spend some money on my cafe and expand? Like, that's maybe daunting right now. What are some ways that you would see expanding and spending money on your cafe to be profitable or worth it?
I think it's definitely something you've got to consider. You've got to make some changes in challenging times. If you just rest on your laurels, you're gonna have a huge issue. It can be as simple as firstly getting someone with you just to walk through your business from a customer perspective, looking at the little things. Quick coat of paint, looking at your tables, your chairs. Do you need to clean them or get some general tidiness around the whole place? Refreshing those things will definitely have a bit of a quick opportunity to show that you're progressing or making a slight change. Customers actually do see that and realise it. I think the other part is, would you be wise to expand? The industry or the pie that we have of all the cafes there, it's been a massive growth. There's so many more roasters, so many more cafes out there, and so many more offerings. I think there's like 5,000 more cafes now than there was a couple of years ago. So we're at max saturation, I'd say. There's not a lot of room for people to open too many more cafes because we shifted from the cities out to the suburbs. But I think looking for opportunities, some of those places might be hurting a lot, and you might be able to take up another cafe that you saw as a pinnacle cafe or a great opportunity. You might be able to pick it up pretty reasonable and get that piece of the pie there. So
I
look
think
at it for sure.
You're really looking at, I guess, the return on that money, and is that money well spent? It might be even just expanding and investing in like a retail shelf. Yes, there's an initial spend on getting some retail stock on the shelf, but that as you sell that bag or as you sell that, you put some AeroPresses on your shelf, you've got your spend, but you'll get that back, and that initial, I guess, investment on a small scale could just be in a retail shelf, but definitely presenting yourself in a way that shows that you are evolving and keeping up is important to that customer mentality for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. So I guess final thoughts with all of that in mind. Just a summary of what a cafe owner might want to start thinking about, and where to go to from here.
For sure. I think it's assessment. If you don't do some sort of assessment on yourself right now, you're not going to know what fields you're playing with, So look at all these things, write it down. What do our customers think? What of our staffing? What is our pricing on our menu? What's our foot traffic like? All these different things we just spoke about. Do an assessment and be honest about it. Don't be like, I think I'll try and, fudge the figures. Maybe if you did write yourself a bit of an assessment form, give it to your staff. Give it to your business partner that doesn't come in, or your top customer that comes in. Be daring to do an assessment that might actually give you feedback that you might not like, but if you do get it, actually try and work on it. Be positive about it.
Yeah, getting that customer feedback, taking that on with a grain of salt, and realizing that it could be the thing that's actually holding you back is some of the things that people have already talked about, whether it's in your Google reviews or in just conversations that you're having and staff ideas. Maybe it's time to rethink what you might be not doing so well. I think the other thing that we do for our business is experience what other people are doing. Get back out there, go see what the big cafes are doing, experience other things. I do know that when I talk to cafe owners, they might have not left their own cafe for a very long time, and that is
for sure
scary, that they don't know what the competition's doing and what they should be living up to, or at least aspiring to and wanting to progress with the times. So I think if you're looking for more customers, it's engaging with them more. It's looking at using social media. It's looking at connecting with your staff and retaining that staff. But I think it's just doing a nice assessment, like I said.
Yeah, definitely.
Bringing it all together and taking this downtime. What do we do in an economic downtime? We look at the big picture and we see where we can improve. And no one's expecting you to perform miracles overnight, but we don't know how long we might be in this little moment for, and you really want to come off strong when we hit peak seasons. So what should be peak seasons end of the year, we want to be ready for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Getting out is a huge thing. I mean, every time we either go to the Mice Expo or something, we've done Fine Foods, and this now for me, it's so invigorating, it's so refreshing, and it does bring you back with so many ideas. And even if you can get 1% of those things that you saw and bring them back into your business, you'll have an improvement. I mean, for us, we're looking to try and move, and I'm just like, how the heck can I live up to this new level that we've seen? Like, I kind of had like $1 million fit out budget. Now I'm like, shivers, that needs to be 2. If we wanted to compete with the big guys or the industry leaders, and that's a roastery, espresso bar, and everything in one. Don't go spend $1 million on a cafe fit out. That's for sure. But I think knowing what the most recent cafe looks like and how you compare yourself to that is a huge thing.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap up there. Thanks for the chat. I'm sure there's more questions we can answer. So definitely put your comments in, put your questions in the comments, and we'll probably do more of these videos. I think it's helpful for cafe owners and baristas and everyone in the coffee industry to keep the conversation going. We want to keep the industry thriving. We want to keep people in the industry, and we don't want to be cutting staff and cutting costs. And we want to find ways to improve cafes and really grow them. So if you have more questions, put them in the comments. There's a whole lot more videos that we've done. Definitely go back through all the videos that we've created around cafe support. And then once you do go to train your staff, share some videos of latte art, coffee making, developing a recipe. So if you don't know how to fix these things, there is resources out there like this YouTube channel that's going to share those with you.
Yeah. Like I said, Jimmy said it there, there's a lot of resources we do have, but also look at those top people and copy them.
Sure. You can learn a lot from the people that have been in it, doing it well. Yeah, definitely. That's what can have a huge impact. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's so much out there and influences that can support you. Yeah. Well, thank you for watching. Yes, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and like this video, hit the bell icon, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. Cheers. Bye. Bye.